just talk about your journey, where you started, where you went, and where you are now.
Yeah. Okay. I think when I've talked about where I started, it kind of was from the point of view of like an adult going like, I'm going to diet. I would like to change my body. But I think really like where I started, I was 5 years old and I was placed on a diet. My first memory of this was visiting my grandparents. They lived in Vermont. My grandfather was the Sicilian guy who cooked a lot of Italian food, and my favorite food at the time was lasagna. It's so weird because forever, even until just recently, if somebody asked, what's your favorite food? I would say lasagna. And then I'd have lasagna and be like, this is not that great. And maybe it's not what my grandfather used to cook because he used to cook one hell of a lasagna. But I realized like I might be thinking this is my favorite food because it was the first food that was ever withheld from me. And like maybe that caused some attachment to it. But I was 5. I went to visit my grandparents. It was my first trip alone. I flew on the airplane alone, which was a very upsetting event for me at 5 years old. And I arrived to their house and he was making lasagna and the whole house smelled wonderful. And I knew exactly what he was making for me because it was my special treat. And then we sat down to eat and they dished me kind of a puny little plate with a sliver of lasagna. And I was like, okay. And I ate it. And then I went to take more and got like my hand smacked. And I was told, like, I don't get more. Listen, I was 5 years old. This was 44 years ago. I don't actually remember the words they said, but something they let me know that I was fat and my food was going to be controlled. And that day, I remember clearing the plates and walking into their kitchen and without anybody seeing it, taking leftovers from one of their plates and cramming it into my mouth and like chewing once quickly and swallowing. Like I remember that detail very vividly. So that's where I started. That was the beginning of dieting for me. It was like on day one, I learned how to cheat on my diet and was having a diet done to me rather than something that I wanted to do. I don't know that you can appeal to a 5-year-old sense of health and wellness and like, you know, what they want out of their body. I don't know that that's realistic with a 5-year-old, but none of that was really done. It was just like, you're getting fat or you are fat and we're going to do something about this. Enough is enough. And then I went home to California and was put on every crackpot diet that came through California. There was Ma Wang at one point, which was a Chinese supplement, which was the first time that I was like, ooh, my mom would take me to chiropractors and they would do muscle or nutritionists and they would do muscle testing on me. And then they would sell my mom a bunch of vitamins for me to take because apparently, you know, they could sense that there was some deficiency that was causing my fatness in vitamin form. And I would take these supplements and nothing would happen. And then I would take these supplements in conjunction with some diet and nothing would happen. I'm pretty sure I was cheating on most of my diets when I could, but at 5 through 10, like there wasn't a lot of, it wasn't like I could pop down to the McDonald's and buy myself food. I was just cheating with whatever food that was lying around. But a lot of the diets were kind of predicated on this idea that the food was the problem, meaning like he's not eating the correct foods for him. And if you just give him the correct foods, he won't want to overeat them. No such luck with me. I can overeat all those correct foods. We shopped at all the health food stores in Los Angeles. There was a store called Mrs. Gooch's, which predated Whole Foods. There was Nature's Food Mart. There was the bulk bin where we would get, beans that my mom would then soak. You didn't buy them in a can or in a bag. You bought them out of a 5-gallon bucket and you had to weigh them. And then they had to get soaked because they were all dried. And, um, And we shopped at Air One on Beverly. And the early 1980s, Air One on Beverly was a dump. It was like there was nothing nice about it. It was dusty and dingy, and the only people I would see in there were Sikhs and people who legitimately looked like they were in the end stages of dying of cancer, like jaundiced and gaunt and sickly people were eating these macrobiotic foods, none of which seemed to be helping anyone overwhelmingly. None of them helped me lose weight, but it wasn't really my pursuit. But when I got a car and started working as an actor and had access to anything I wanted to eat, I went from obese to like morbidly obese really, really quickly. I was a social person. I was going out and seeing my friends, but I did not like to eat around them a lot. So I would just go and hang out and go to a diner and maybe order just fries. Or I remember at one point I was with a group of people I didn't know that well, and I ordered a veggie burger at Jerry's Deli, thinking like I'll look healthy eating a veggie burger. You know what I mean? Like I'll
Mhm.
look like, I'm aware that there's a problem, and I'm taking care of that by ordering this veggie burger. Probably the same calories in a regular cheeseburger, which is what I would have preferred. Um, and then at night, I knew all the 24-hour, uh, you know, Astro Burger on Gower and Melrose was open till 4 a.m. There was a Del Taco in Glendale that was open 24 hours. There was a Wendy's in Burbank, like on the border of San Fernando, that was open till 2 a.m. Like I knew like Damiano's Pizza was open 24 hours. Like I knew where to get food late at night on my way home from having withheld food from myself and other people because food was shameful. This is like what I learned by cheating on all these diets, by getting in trouble for eating, was that I felt very shameful about food. And then I got together with Brandy. I came out of rehab in 2001. Brandy got divorced and we got together, and it was not long before I like realized, I had an awkward conversation with Jim Caviezel on a plane.
Yeah,
But
tell us about that because you've talked about it, but like just from the point of view of you're living your, how old are you at this point? And you're living your life in this way. You said morbidly obese,
yeah,
and you know what I mean? Like what is that moment there?
he and I were going to do a movie. We were going to do some, I think it was like a reimagining of Robin Hood, but maybe set during the Revolutionary War. I could be kind of off on some of the details. He was going to play Robin Hood. I was going to play Little John. And then the movie fell apart. So I was totally aware of him. I knew who he was. I knew he was a fantastic actor. And he was at least peripherally aware of me because they offered me this role in this movie with him. And I was flying to Romania to do Cold Mountain. And there's no direct flights from Los Angeles to Romania. So you got to fly to Frankfurt on a Lufthansa plane and then take another smaller plane to Bucharest. And in the Lufthansa lounge, in walks Jim Caviezel and his wife. And he came and sat with me in the lounge for a few minutes. And it was kind of awkward. Like I was uncomfortable. I think, like, when I'm being completely honest, I think I was uncomfortable simply because he didn't like break eye contact,
Mm.
which is not super typical of people you run into, like an unblinking, unwavering, like in my head he was like looking for my soul to judge it, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and that but that's not, I don't know what was happening on his side of it, but that was so. So then when I was like, okay, I'm going to go get on my plane, it was a little bit of a relief. Okay, see you later. And then I get on the plane and he's on my flight and there's nobody sitting next to me whatever, on this Lufthansa plane. It was two seats and two seats with an aisle in between. And the seat next to me was empty. So we took off and he came and sat in the seat next to me for a long time. Uh, and I was so uncomfortable. But basically, you know, in retrospect, he was holding a mirror up to me. He was saying, like, take a look at yourself, dude. Take a long, hard look at yourself. And this is not something I want to do to people. I'm not interested in that, but it fucking worked. What
Mm,
he did worked. I didn't get off the plane thinking, yeah, I need to emulate Jesus Christ. That was not what I was thinking, but I think that was the crux of his message
mm,
was like, you're not emulating Jesus Christ and you need to be, otherwise you're going to hell. It was like a version of that. And that was not my takeaway from it. But my takeaway was like, I have just seen myself. He has held up a reflection of me and I don't like what I see. And I don't ever want somebody to feel like they can have that conversation with me again. I want
mm.
to change my life to whatever degree I have to, that conversation is never a potential.